Guest speakers tonight. They are from they're from the American Legion. First one I'm going to introduce here, I've known Tim for a while now, since I showed up at the Minneapolis VA as the public affairs officer. I got contacted by the American Legion about one of the biggest awards that they give out to the best doctor of the year, which Minneapolis won that year. And that's when I got to meet Mike and Tim. And since then, we've been working a lot together on stories to get to veterans, to inform them of good things about benefits and stuff for their health care at the VA. So Tim's served in telecommunications in the 82nd Airborne Division in the Persian Gulf War. He is an Iowa State University graduate, thanks to the GI Bill and the Army College Fund. And he has with a degree in journalism and a minor in English. And then Ray over here, I just met a couple weeks ago when the secretary stopped in Minnesota, and we had a little press conference, and well, Janet and Ray got to show up, and they did a little bit of questioning of the secretary, so that's kind of nice. So Ray Kane served in radar surveillance with the 134th MIB at Fort Snelling, and later as a Bradley fighting vehicle operator and trainer for the 34th Infantry Division, drilling out of East St. Paul. He's a graduate of the Inver Hills Community College. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've got Ray and Tim. Come on up, folks. Yep.
So I'm going to speak briefly, and then I'll hand it over to Ray. I'm the communications director for the American Legion Department of Minnesota, and part of my job is also I'm the baseball secretary. How cool is that? So like when you get tired of your one job, you can do your other job. But that job does require a lot of coordination, and we have the largest Legion baseball program in the country. We have 383 teams, and that's no other state is even above 300. So it's a very large program, and we're very proud of it. And so I'm kind of in baseball uniform today. Legion baseball shirt. Shields is the official sponsor of Minnesota American Legion Baseball. So they help us with the funding of everything, so we don't have to raise fees on families or teams and things like that. The teams pay the fees, not the families. So I enjoy that very much, and I went to Rochester today to help coordinate some things, and now I'm back up here. And I wanted to talk to you about how I did go to Eagle Group back when you were at the Outback in Bloomington. And I was employed at that time, but then I went for a while. I was in the newspaper business, and the newspaper business isn't doing the best. And so I became unemployed in 2019, and I went to one of your weekly meetings at a pizza place somewhere in, Richfield. And you guys gave me resume advice and other things that I could do to help get employed. And look at me now. I'm working for the Legion and loving life. How many of you are Legion members? Do you get the Minnesota Legionnaire? That's what I do. That's part of the communications that I do for the Legionnaire. If you ever have a submission for the Legionnaire, you see all those photos with captions and stuff, you're more than welcome to send it in. I would encourage everyone here to join the Legion if you get a chance. Now, a lot of times people think the Legion is a bar. You know, you see the Coors Light sign, and I suppose that makes, no matter how the marketing, all the marketing I can do and all the advertising and work I can do to tell people that you see that sign more than you'll see my marketing. But the Legion does a lot for veterans. Who's representing us in Congress? The Legion. They're there. They wrote the GI Bill. How many people use the GI Bill? The Legion not only wrote the GI Bill, but they've advocated for the improvements like the Montgomery GI Bill, the Forever GI Bill, and even on the local level, veterans courts here in Minnesota, they matter to us a lot. The Legion was very instrumental in getting those up and running, and especially the Veterans Restorative Justice Act that became dead because of a controversy that had nothing to do with the bill, but it was a scandal that a lobbyist that was lobbying for the bill was involved with, so people didn't want to touch it. Well, the Legion decided to talk about it, and they got it back to where it was okay to talk about this thing again. And despite all both parties, it would be funny because one session, one party would be in favor of it and the other would be opposed. And then the next session, it'd be the opposite. So it took a while, but we were nonpartisan the whole way and we got it passed. So, we're there trying to do what's right for veterans. And you don't have to be active, even if you're not, even if, you can be as active as you want to be or not active as you want to be, but at least be a member. So that way we have membership when we go to Congress and we can say, it provides clout for when we're talking to lawmakers. You think about the baseball program, and it's great to do things for youth, but the baseball program and some of our other programs, they're not just for the kids, they're also for the veterans. What's a really good way for helping veterans transition back to community is to get involved in the community, do things, get out of the house, maybe coach a baseball team, all sorts of other programs like that. But I'll let Ray talk. He's our department service officer. And if you ever find yourself in a jam, you don't know who to turn to, and you can't find the A team, you can call Ray.
Well, Tim, I appreciate that. That was the best introduction I've gotten in a long time. So thank you. All right. My name is Ray Kane. I'm the Department Service Officer, and I am not going to even go further until I introduce well, she has an assistant on her name, but that's just because of payroll. So you HR people know she's my assistant Department Service Officer, Janet Lorenzo. She's going to come up here to help me with the slideshows, but she is the backbone of the program. So when I sit up there and say we, it's more her than me. And so I joke around that she was in the Navy, but she should have been a Marine. If you know anything, they say a lot of people laughed on that one. And unfortunately, I don't like sitting behind a podium. So next slide if you want.
Hence the assistant part.
Yeah, thanks. So some of the things we're just going to do a quick introduction, duties and responsibilities, some of the benefits we do with the programs, and then the outreach support. Next slide. So some of my background, and I'll lead into this, is I was in the infantry. They called me the closer, not only in my retail career, but in my military career. So I was in the Army Reserves. They closed that unit. I went to the MI unit. They closed that unit. So then they took me over to the National Guard. We were at the state capitol. They said, nope, we're going to close that unit. So then I went to East St. Paul, and I was like, hey, I'm staying. So I did Bradley training for the infantry, and then I also worked with pre-basic. So I got to be the brown hat without having the brown hat and going through the training. So the best job I ever got to do, I got to yell at people that weren't even in the military yet. So that was great. And then I went back to college because I almost died 4 times. So I have a double organ transplant. So it's been 10 years. And I'm pretty sure there's a guy here at the Eagles group named Randy, start with a K. That guy I called one day, and he told me I got more excuses than I've got reasons why I can't. So I was like, all right. So he said, you're sick, but what about volunteering? Okay, I'll start volunteering. So then I got into the volunteering with Yellow Ribbon. So I am the board president for Beyond the Yellow Ribbon. We were 1 city, now we're 5. I'm also now, because of Janet, a Veterans Court mentor. And that's one of the best things that's happening to me. Very impactful, and hopefully you'll see a video coming here soon with Janet in it, and grab a tissue. It's powerful. I'm also work for the People's Patriots Project, the CFO. So I can go on and on and on. So I'm very involved because I have an opportunity to continue and go up to those pearly gates, and because I have an opportunity right now because my donor gave me a kidney and a pancreas to make a difference. So that's why, the why. Everybody asks you, well, why? Well, that's the why. Right? Next slide, Janet, please.
Only because you said please.
So some of the things that we do is veterans assistance. So me and Janet work really well with providing veterans assistance and benefits. If you look up there, making sure veterans understand their benefits. You guys are just getting out. I hear, oh, I'm transitioning. Oh, did you go to make sure you documented everything? All your injuries or your issues that you might have had, make sure they're documented. VA, document, and what? Document. It's important because you know what? You're like, oh, I'm in the infantry. I'm going to jump off that tank. And then 10 years later, you're like, oh, why are my knees hurting? Why does my back hurt? It's all that stuff that you got to make sure you document, because if it's not documented, it didn't happen. Yep, didn't happen, and that's the issue. So we want to make sure you get your benefits and you're qualified and you get what you deserve. A lot of people say, oh, we heard on Janet's video today, I came with all my legs. You know, you walk in the VA and they've got people with no legs or missing an arm, and then we get that survivor guilt. No, you put in the time, and you need to make sure you take care of yourselves, because you're young right now, but later on, we want to make sure you're taken care of when you get older, and everything's documented to make sure you're getting the right benefits. VA care in Minnesota is excellent. There's some opportunities like everything has, but the Minneapolis VA care is very good right now. It's an excellent place to go to. We also collaborate with organizations. So, and Janet's going to laugh at me. She's going to yell at me on the way in the car. Ray, you're all over the place. That's me. We work with organizations. When we get a veteran that comes to us and says, hey, we need assistance, we use a platform called Unite Us. Unite Us is a platform where we get them on the program, and we have a grant. It's called the Minnesota Veterans Assistance Fund, and it's called Fund 85 for the foundation. And what we do is we lift veterans up. We give them an opportunity to say, hey, I'm struggling right now. And if they're struggling and they're having a hard time paying their rent or their car payment or something, then what's going to happen to them? They're going to start getting that process of veterans get down. PTSD starts settling in. And now we're working with them on 988, press 1, veterans, suicide. We want to get them out of that crisis mode. But what we don't do is just say, thanks, goodbye. So sometimes we pay first and last month's rent. Sometimes we pay a mortgage payment. We have a lot of individuals that are being deployed, that were deployed, and coming back, they're contract workers. They said, you know what? Their wife said, they did a great job over there. I didn't want to interrupt him and didn't want to do this. And I missed a car payment because I had to pay for the extra, the dishwasher or the air conditioning or the heater. So what we do is we look at that stuff and we try to lift them up by giving them some assistance and some funds. But because Janet is my teammate and she's awesome, she has a background and a master's degree in social work. So the best part about that and her background is we make sure we move forward. How else can we assist you? Food insecurity is a big deal for some of our veterans. And sometimes their income is like a little bit higher than qualifying for a food shelf, but because of their bills and their deployment and all that stuff, they're struggling. So we work with basic needs, with their food shelf recovery. We work with a program that we can refer them to food shelves. We work, and I'm like, before I forget, she's right away, as you can see, I'm jumping back and forth. If you're a recruiter in here right now, we want your information. Because we also work with veterans that say, hey, I'm looking for a job, I'm struggling, coming back. So we work with a group that's called Helmets to Hard Hats for the construction guys and different programs. So we give referrals to them, and that would be great to get your information to say, here's a person you can come talk to. Now that's based on the veteran and what they do. But we work with MACV and making sure that housing, homelessness is being taken care of. We try to prevent the homelessness before it gets to that point with our Minnesota Veterans Assistance Fund. But if they come to us before that, we work with MACV, DAV, and then a lot of other different programs on that. But once again, that's that Unite Us program that's coming in, and we can track the veteran of what's going on. If I send them to Project Got Your Back, we know when that gentleman takes them, grabs a hold of them, and then moves them forward, and we can follow that process. We also know in the post, we want to get the veterans connected to the American Legion posts, because once the veterans with that post, now they have somebody like this group, which I'm excited to learn more about, is that now you have that veteran that they're wrapping around and mentoring. And Janet, we joke about this sometimes, in odd ways, because, I see a lot of older veterans here, and a lot of older people, but the younger veterans, unfortunately, don't use cash very often. They use that credit card, and they put subscriptions on everything. So some of them come to us and say, hey, Ray, we're hungry. I don't have any money for food. I don't have money for this. And then when you look at them and sit down with them, they've got Hulu, Netflix, Paramount Plus, Cinemax, and they also have Plenty of Fish, Bumble, Tinder. What was the other one? A bunch of other ones. So they're not seeing that stuff at their income. So we work with them and refer them out to Lutheran Social Services to go over their financial things and say, wow, I didn't know I was spending $338 on subscriptions a month. So we work with that kind of stuff too. So when they say, hey, have you noticed, what does American Legion do? Everything right now. we want to be the referral process. We are going to help you when you come to the VA. You say, hey, we want to get your claim going. We want to be your power of attorney. We'll work with your county veteran service officer. If it comes back to where you have an appeal or a question on it, we'll work with you with Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs to get you going. We'll make sure you get the right paperwork in there. So we're the one-stop shop is what we're looking for on referrals, but also making sure that we're taking care of the veteran, not just now, but in the future too. And then next slide, Janet.
Veteran and their families.
Oh, yes, and that's correct. The veterans and their families. We're working with families to make sure that we have a lot of veterans, unfortunately, the last couple of months that have come to us, that they've gone to their appointments and they've got their scans or something like that, and they found out they're in stage 4 cancer. So what we're doing is we're helping their families to assist them to make sure that they can spend time with their veterans that are in hospice right away. I mean, we've had four that just
This
last month that came into the VA and they're walked out being put on hospice. So the American Legion takes care of them and make sure that we assist them in everything that they can do. So some of the things we work on, and once again, we'll just quick go through it. Oh, and I almost forgot this. Once again, Janet's gonna be like, Janet was a certifying official for college, at Everett Hills Community College. And we went back to school as adult learners. Is that the correct term? As adults, she always tells me the correct term. So we met back there in 2016. So she became the certifying official, and unfortunately, I stole her from Everett Hills Community College, and it was the best thing that ever happened to us. So we know a lot about, well, she knows a lot about education. So when you're looking about educational benefits, come see us, come see Janet, she'll take care of us. And because Janet has such a big background on education, we just wrote a resolution that we're hoping that's going to get passed that will increase your Chapter 33 benefits because of the change after the pandemic. And I'm going to sum it up real quick, but because a lot of the institutions are going online only, but if you don't have a class in brick and mortar, then your payments for your housing gets deducted. We want to eliminate that so that you still get your benefits, because when your housing deduction gets reduced, you're then to the point where you're in a poverty level after you pay rent, especially in Minnesota in the Twin City area. Rent's pretty high, house payment's pretty high, so $1,200, $1,500 is really not going to really even cover you for a one-bedroom apartment in the city of Minnesota or the Twin City area right here, even in the outer suburbs. So that's something we do with that. Disability compensation, once again, employment services, housing. We want to say home loans. We have a lot of individuals that are reaching out to us because that's the current opportunity right now we're seeing for veterans. They're getting back. They've saved a lot of money, but they want to use their VA loan and how to work with that, but also financially trying to figure out what they qualify for. So we reach out to our partners and say, here's a guy down here, here's a person here, and I think we even got a contact today for VA loans, so that's great. So we've actually benefited from coming here already just by some of the contacts we got. Is there anything else I'm missing, Janet?
Nope.
Next slide, I think here. We also, the first picture there is we walk through the VA quite a bit, and we have the opportunity, and that's great, that we get to go through the VA and make sure they uphold their services through veterans. So Janet and I, we go to all I think 2 domiciliaries in the state of Minnesota. We go to all of the Minnesota veterans VA, to all their assisted living homes, and we go to all the hospitals. So we're going down to Sioux Falls down on the 10th, and we're up in Fargo. So we make sure that they're upholding their obligations to the veterans in the homes, and they're doing a great job. There's some opportunities on certain things, but Minnesota is doing a great job for their veterans right now, and we hope to make sure they continue to do that. We're also we wrote a resolution because of that walk. I don't know if I should be saying there is some publication coming out about some of the stuff that we got. When you walk through the lines and they give you a shot in the arm and say, take it, there's some things that are happening with some of those shots. So hopefully down the line, there's a peer review coming out. So hopefully down the line, we will see some of that change in your health care. And that's all being a part of the VA and working with our partners. I don't want to go too long.
May I point out that that research itself was funded by the Legion?
Yep. And that research was funded, yes, by the Legion. Our Brain Foundation is working with the VA to do some research, and some of that's coming out is because of some of the foundations and some of the funding that we got from the Legion. So we really appreciate that. If you have any questions, I'm going to leave some of my cards here. And then I have my dot card here. I'll get it from Tim. If you want to scan my dot card, the best part about the dot card, scan it. You'll see my information, hit save. It goes right to your contacts. You never lose it. If you take my card, please put it in your phone right away, so you guys don't walk away with and put it in there. So that's my biggest thing is sometimes Jan will tell you I got 4 or 5 calls. I'm like, I got to put this card in there. So once again, we appreciate you guys being a part of this program. Thank you. And please take my card later on. We have to run. We were double booked for another event too tonight, another speaking event. We're always on the run and always doing stuff. We always have time for veterans. We make sure we take care of our veterans, not here, but always everywhere. And the American Legion is doing that. And once again, this gentleman right here, he gave me the opportunity to stand in front of the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. And I was like, oh, I was giddy. I was asking all these questions like one-on-one. That was the best opportunity we have. So appreciate you, Bradley, helping us come in here and doing this too. Does anybody have any questions for us before we break off here? All right, once again,